guess it was 71. The show was on the air, was already on the air. There was a second year. I think I started in the third season. And who's ever watching this should ask somebody who's good about remembering exact dates. But anyway, and I really thought the show wasn't going to last much longer because it had already been satirized on Saturday Night Live. It's called Reality Street. Had hookers on it and everything. It was very funny. This was the first time they showed a real street, an inner city street. I mean, it was hilarious. And they had already been on Johnny Carson. So what could possibly be next for this show? And I just waltzed in here and gave a little audition and got hired.
Now, before the audition, had you seen the show?
Sure. I'll never forget the first time I saw it, as a matter of fact. I was like I said, or I don't know if I mentioned, I was at Carnegie Mellon University being a drama student, and there was a student union with a huge television set. And I walk into the student union, and there I see James Earl Jones. He was just doing Great White Hope on Broadway, very bald, very thin, and he's going A, B, C, and the letters were flashing over his head, and it was like, what is this? This was so in your face, so compelling. I couldn't believe it. It just grabbed me by the neck. And then when I saw the street, I saw Susan and Gordon and the stoop, and I said, hey, that's my street. That's my stoop. That's my construction doors. I know that place. It was so my neighborhood that I was just mesmerized. At that time, there were no people of color on television. And if there were, they certainly weren't nice Susan and Gordon. They're so friendly and cheerful, and Mr. Hooper, you know, nice Jewish store owner, candy store guy, just like the guy in my old neighborhood. It was exciting. It was just exciting television. And it wasn't slick, and the kids would be, they'd look right at the camera sometimes. So it had that tension. And I was just thrilled by the show. I thought it was hilarious.
Describe that first audition. What was that like for you?
I just came. I remember I was wearing a simple little dress and some cheap Indian sandals, and I walked here I had a little apartment in the 70s, and John Stone, who was later a great friend and one of the creators of the show, he asked me to explain why two things were the same. There were, one of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong. And it was a circle with stripes and another circle without stripes and something like that. And I had to explain. And there were two right answers. It's one of those trick questions. And I got through that. And then he told me to tell a story, like a scary story, like somebody's following you. And I did. And then I left. And that was it. It was in his office. It could not happen today. In 2004, it could not happen. First of all, you need a committee to see me. And he had such vision, and he knew what the show was, that he didn't have to ask anybody what they thought. He didn't have to have data. He didn't have to have a chart that said, this is what kids want to watch. That's how everything is today. It was one guy, or, it was Jim Henson, John Stone, Joe Raposo, Jeff Moss, who knew what the show was, who knew what the mission of the show was. And I was cast because the African-American community, or black community, as the term was in those days, said, we want, we're being represented on the show, and the Hispanic community said, we want the same. So that's when everybody was political in those days. Everybody had something to say. And I came on the show, and Emilio Delgado came on the show from California. And for the longest time, I thought Emilio was, I didn't know he was an actor. I thought he was an activist for Cesar Chavez, because you couldn't talk to him for 2 minutes without him giving you a boycott grapes button. So it wasn't until later that I realized, you're an actor, but actors weren't actors. We were cast because of who we were, the people that we were.
Were you asked about your past and?
No. But when I came on the show, of course, I wanted to know what kind of character Maria was. And John Stone kept saying, we just want you to be yourself. We want you to be yourself. We want the kid in the Lower East Side to look at you and say, that's me. I'm just like her. Just be yourself. And one time I was on the set, and the costume designer had put me in a pleated skirt and knee socks, a little vest. I looked like, a co-ed. And makeup. I had makeup on. And John Stone, he came on the set and he was furious because he was a passionate man, and he would get furious at people, short-tempered. And he grabbed me. I don't know what's going on. And we go into the makeup room, and I sit down in the makeup chair, and he says to the makeup artist, he said, God damn it, I go through all this trouble to cast real people, and you make her look like a Cupid doll. Well, the makeup artist was very nervous, and she starts taking off my makeup, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm realizing that this is my position on the show. To be myself, to be real, to talk the way I talk, to dress the way I talk. That this is why I got cast. It was like, ding, got it.